Whatever makes you happy. That's what I want to do. So once again, my name's Naomi, and I want to welcome you to Dope Nostalgia. It's a podcast where we talk about things that happened for great artists in the 90s that came out of that era and what they're also doing now. So we're going to touch on some of the stuff that happened in the Farmer's Daughter days and also promote your current projects.
Well, thank you. That's great. Sounds so much fun. I love the name, Dope Nostalgia. That's
It's simple and cute. I like it. Now, in the beginning, how did the three of you ladies come together as Farmer's Daughter?
Okay, so I was traveling with a gospel band at the time, which is where I met my now husband. And two of the girls from that gospel band were originally going to be a part of this.
Ah.
So it was Becky Eileen Trueblood, Miss Idaho, and Judy Lynn Knapp, three name girls
Yeah.
from the South, and myself. And for whatever reason, neither of those the girls had other things that they needed to go to, and it didn't work out with the three of us. But I still love the concept of the trio. So I called my cousin, Shauna Ray, our moms are sisters, and said, hey, look, we've been singing together since we've been kids. Would you be interested in something like this? And she just jumped on it. She was in Florida at the time, going to school. And then we, it was one of those fabulous Baker Boys moments for the third missing piece of the puzzle, because Shauna Ray and I had that family harmony thing going. And of course we, I've noticed that she's a baby. Mm-hmm. And so to find that person, we literally went through the kinds of auditions, and while, one of the girls, beautiful girl, lovely singer, she joined, we did some recording, we thought, this is it, this is going to work, and then she said, yeah, and then also I'm going to have to, every time we play somewhere in town, I'm going to have to find some time to do some work with my tracks. And so basically she was a Jehovah's Witness and would need to be doing her witnessing all through the tour. So it's like,
wow.
Totally respect. She goes, oh, and I can't sing "Oh Canada," and I can't. So these are just a few of the little moments where we're like, oh, we thought we had that right fit, and totally respect her, choices in life, but it didn't work out. So we went through about 3 or 4 girls, and then came Ange, the little Manitoba bombshell. And, it was one of those instantaneous things. We met through a producer who I'd been doing some writing with, Michael Rowe, and he said, yeah, you got to meet this girl. And I popped her demo into the cassette player.
Yes.
And it was all kind of dance music.
Okay.
So we met, and we had an amazing brunch. She said the moment that she knew things were going to work from her side was that I laughed apparently out loud with my mouth wide open, full of food, and she said, okay, we can do business. And when we sang together, that of course was the third part. It was just instant lock. When you sing harmony with some people, it just, mostly with family, there's just this thing where you just click.
Yeah.
And that's how it felt with her. It was instantaneous. And
you just know.
Like, as they say, the rest is history.
And
then we were all prairie girls as well. That was the other thing I was going to say. We referred to ourselves as prairie chickens all the time.
Nice.
It was just like, there's a certain humor. I feel there's a certain, I don't know what it is about, prairie folks. Maybe it's the cold winters. Maybe, I don't know. But there's something that is very specific. And we really felt that with our bond, for sure.
And there's something cool about harmony when the tones, like, you have to have that good tone that matches each other as well.
Yes.
Which is kind of like a magical thing when you get those sweet notes.
That's exactly right. And you can have 3 incredibly great singers and have them sing together and have it just be like this, this battle, this fighting of tones. So you're absolutely right. And that was just something, family, again, like I said, there is something about family harmony. Mm-hmm. But when Ange came along, and Ange kind of has a bit of a rasp thing going on with her voice, and somehow that just fit right in the middle of Shauna Ray and I, and it just locked. So yeah, it was instantaneous. We just knew. It was like, oh, you have to say yes, please.
I think that it really excites me talking to you today too, and focusing on Farmer's Daughter is for this podcast. We've been doing this show for a year now, and you're the very first country artist that we're featuring.
Oh,
So I'm so glad it's you guys because like, what a wonderful way to start.
wow. Oh, well,
Yeah.
I am so honored. Thank you so much for finding me here in Atlanta, Georgia.
And did you guys get compared to other acts at the time that were out there on the radio? And
Oh, all the time. And really there at that point there were only two of us. There was the Dixie Chicks and there was us.
there you go.
And a lot of people made the comparison. And I mean, it like we never actually met face to face, but we knew a lot of the same people. We did a lot of writing with Marcus Hummin, and then directly after that, they did a lot of writing with Marcus Hummin. The girls were from Texas. We went down to Nashville with our Le Chateau. That's my door. Let's pick up at that point because that's funny.
Okay.
Hello. Oh, hey, come on in. Yeah, so Farmer's Daughter, took off down in Nashville, and there were, several record companies that were looking at us at the time, and we barreled in there with our Canadian, hair colors and fashion sense, and a lot of we had a sponsorship from Le Chateau at the time, so they dressed us head to toe, and like fabulous stuff that wasn't even necessarily on the racks at the time. So
I loved your fashion.
Thank you. A lot of leather, a lot of like the metallic shiny leathers, and I had the red hair with the blonde in the front. And I think honestly, looking back now, we probably could have toned it down a little, because at the end of the day, and listen, I have nothing but love for the Dixie Chicks. They're fabulous. And they've, incredible songs. We were very much the same, but here's the funny part. At that point in time in the country music industry, they literally said there's room for one female trio. And these girls were, they're from Texas. So they got the vote, clearly. And also, I do think that our fashion, I think a lot of the Southern people were a little bit, what do we do with these girls? And it would always come up in live interviews, and they would always set it up as, so what do you think of or in an introduction, it would be, and the Canadian Dixie Chicks. And we're kind of like, so at the end, towards the end, it was just like, we're so different. And the fact that in the industry at that point, people felt they had to choose, considering all the male bands, all the male duos at the time, it just, but that was nothing new for what we were, what we went through as a female trio in that time.
It feels like it's still specific to country music that things might be a little bit better in that regard when it comes to female exposure on country radio, but I feel like it's still an issue.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And matter of fact, when we first started playing the bars, I remember our manager, who's my father, when he tried to book us in bars, they said, no, females can't handle a bar crowd. Said people don't drink to female artists. And if they're not drinking, they're not dancing. If they're not dancing, they're not drinking. So we went in there and we learned an entire male repertoire. We were Travis Tritt. We sang, every male artist that had we sang Garth Brooks songs. We just filled our whole repertoire with male songs, male hits, and told our guitar player that he could, use the distortion as much as he wanted, because, to the ears of the listeners and the bar owners, that kind of, gave us a little bit of chutzpah in there. And And before long, and you know, we also, I'm going to admit, we introduced some drinking games. Now, I know that now in today's climate, that would probably not be acceptable, but there was this one song where we said the name Willie about 20 times. And we said, okay, every time you hear the word Willie, everyone, you know, drink.
That's pretty normal
Not,
though when you're playing a bar establishment, because
well, and
they
you
still
know
want
what?
you to they want you to help sell their alcohol too, don't they?
Well, they
Sometimes.
really do. Now I think we could probably get in a lot of trouble for that, but we
Mhm.
had to play with our own rules, and you know, and we became a really fun bar band. We even did a costume change on stage behind screens from IKEA, you know, to try and so we literally, you know, would strip down and change clothes behind these screens until we hit the festival stages. And one of the tech guys came up and said, "Hey, you didn't do the costume change." And we're like, "How'd you know about the costume change?" He goes, "Everybody knows about the costume change because all the crew was behind the stage when we started not playing bars." So we had to rejig that a little bit.
Was it something that you guys were becoming known for after a while? It's like, this is the group that does that.
Yeah, you're totally right. There was one summer, and it was Dina Carter, it was Faith Hill, it was Billie Dean, it was, you know, that whole crew. Oh my gosh, we had a lot of fun out there.
Festivals would be the best, and it's a
Oh,
good way to get people together too, and you can do the networking and
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Festivals were amazing.
Now, my favorite Farmer's Daughter song is "Now That I'm on My Own." Those harmonies, those glorious harmonies, and such a strong melody, especially on that chorus. What is your favorite of the songs?
Okay,
And go deep cuts. I love deep cuts. I love it.
okay. Okay. Oh, let me think. You know, I mean, you actually picked one that is one of my favorites. That was that song. I just have to say that every single night when we would get to that song, it didn't matter how shitty things were going. I mean, because let's face it, we were on the road 270 days of the year.
Mhm.
Adults weren't meant to live in a bus together like that. So we had some rocky times, I'm not going to lie, but it honestly, it was like a drug, that song. Like whenever we got to that song, whatever was going on, by the time we finished singing that song, it was resolved. You know,
Wow.
I mean, it was so powerful, and I'm so glad you picked that one. Off the first record, there's a song called Tenderness. I could use a little tenderness. Nobody heard that song, but I want you to go
Really?
and listen to it. It's
I
really,
will.
yeah, it's
We're gonna play clips of some of the tunes here on the show as well. So I'm going to edit a clip of that song in for you.
yeah, okay, cool.
Yeah.
There's another song called Walking Away for You.
Hmm.
That was from the Making Hay record. And it's all about people living their life on the road, and the people that they're in relationships with not being able to handle what that entails. And so in this song, it says, you know, think of me walking away for you.
Yeah.
To save you what you're you know what you're going to be signing up for, marrying and hooking up with a musician who makes their living on the road. There is also a whole series of songs that we did called the Cocktail Sessions, and it's the only music of ours that's on Spotify.
What?
So and these are all, we were asked to write a song for a movie that never got made, but it was right after the uh, Austin Powers.
Mm.
So Liz Hurley was, well, you know, fabulous in those movies, and they were going to make a movie based on her where she starred as that character. And so we wrote a song called Spy Girl
Ah.
for that movie, and we had so much fun that we said we're going to do, you know, like 6 sides of this kind of music, and it was such a blast. And that actually, those are up on iTunes, I think, too. It's so funny because when all of the, you know, all the social media stuff was coming about, and even YouTube, we, you know, there, it wasn't a tech savvy thing. You know,
Mm.
our world, we were total, you know, road dogs basically. um So I look back at, my husband and I kind of have this thing, because he'll look on, one of his songs with David Guetta, and it's like 200 million views. And I look at one of our, like Cornfields or Cadillacs, or Now That I'm on My Own, it's like, I don't know what it is now, but it's like 1,800. So yeah, he always wins those games. But it's, at one point we had a bunch of our stuff up, and then it was one of our fans who put it up, because we were out of the business before people started uploading and that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So it all got taken down because there were the rights of the songs that didn't belong to him, and so it all got removed. And then I think somebody put up another one this last year. Anyway, doesn't matter. But yeah, let me think of some of the other. Wait for Me was always one of my favorites. Family Love. Family Love was the first video we ever made. We filmed it in the last standing cornfield in Taber, Alberta.
Taber.
Taber, corn.
Taber corn. One of my best friends is from there, so I hear a lot about.
Oh, no way!
But I haven't been.
Taber.
I haven't been there myself yet, and I'm from Edmonton. That's where I'm at right now.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. So that one has, that's the first song I ever wrote, like full beginning to end song. And my niece and my nephew are in the video. They're in several, but my nephew was not even 1. He's eating his first chocolate chip cookie. And my niece is 5, and she's like running through the gates. She's in several of the shots, and she ended up being my egg donor.
Really?
Yes. So when I look at that video and I see this wee tiny little 5-year-old girl, it's just I am never not amazed by the whole process. Yeah. So that one, Family Love, on so many levels, that was, and it's interesting too. Tony Pantages directed that, and this man is an artist, and so from the standpoint of first videos, everyone's always like, oh, the first video, oh, I wish I could file that away. This video is one of our most beautifully filmed videos, and so it really set the bar.
That's exciting. I hope that we could still find that on YouTube, because
you can.
Good.
That you can. Yeah.
Good.
I think all of the videos are up, actually. Oh, in Clemency. That was another one that, it's written about Vancouver and the rain and that feeling you get. And when we filmed the video, it was supposed to be on the top of a roof, and all of the gear was like swept away. So we had to rejig that one. But yeah, favorites. Oh man.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny. It's like when someone says, hey, sing a song, and you think to yourself, oh, do I know one? It, like, my mind is blanking, because honestly, every song that we chose has a separate place in my heart, for sure.
It's nice to have a catalog that you can say that about. But also, like, just the fact that sometimes when we're under a record contract, you don't always get a chance to choose the songs that you want to have as singles. And in those cases, that's why I like to ask that question.
Well, I'll tell you, Naomi, no one would sign us initially. So we created our own label, Stubble Jumper Music. And of course, Stubble Jumper is another word for prairie person.
Yeah.
So we started our own, and by the time we came back round to the record labels, what they could offer us at that time was basically promotional stuff, and we kept a lot of our own decision making. So they didn't have that kind of control over our material.
That's wonderful.
And the first time we met with one of the heads of one of the record labels, he said, yeah, you know what? Your kind gets pregnant. So we said, okay, all right. And had to figure out different ways to get things done. So, we didn't have big tour money behind us. So we had to maverick our way. We went into small towns and said, okay, where's your 4-H club? We want to partner with you. Who is your young budding artist? We'll let them open for us. And the next thing you know, the whole town was out. We'll throw $2 a ticket sales to your 4-H club, or your hockey club or whatever.
Smart.
So, yeah. And you know what? We were able to get out of the bar scene and get into the local theater / Legion. But it was all ours, the door, the merch, the everything. And so, that's how we got ourselves in a position. And at that same time, I have to say, and this was such an honor, we were winning awards, which was typically reserved for, label artists. So by the time we were recorded by some of these labels, it was just like, what you got? Because right now we're booked and we're taking everything home with us. So they, we met some wonderful people at Universal and had a really great experience with them.
That leads into my next question too, about the awards that you won in 97 and 98. You won Best Country Group at the Junos, Best Group of the Year at the CCMAs. Now, what an accomplishment that must have felt like for you. And what kind of memorabilia from those days have you kept that's special to you?
Thank goodness my mother kept 3 of everything, because at that time it was just like, you don't think, you're just doing, right?
Yeah. And
it was exciting. It was amazing. But I have to just back up a wee bit, because before we started winning those kinds of awards, there was what, and this experience actually got me Googling today to find out the details of it, because the first award that we were ever nominated for was a Juno in 95. And it was in a category, get this, it was in a category with Big Sugar, Moist, The Gand Harvest, and Wild Strawberries, and Farmer's Daughter. And I don't know, I mean, I when I was looking back at some of the categories, it's just like, when I remember going to, it was in Toronto, and it was on our first record. So we were just like, our eyes were wide, and we could, and Big Sugar, Moist. I mean, come on. I mean, I was just like, what are we doing here? And we went into the viewing room where they had this, the huge screen, and they would play clips of the nominees. And when It Was Family Love came up on the screen, it was just like, honestly, I don't know if, I mean, there's gratitude and there is excitement, but that moment in 95 with the first record and that group of people, when country was still kind of going, prove yourself. Like every time we went into that bar room, it wasn't just, are they going to like our music? It's like, prove yourself as a female, and then we'll decide if we like your music. And so this was a nod, not from the Country Music Association, who ended up coming around and supporting us like none other, but from the Junos first, which, I mean, just, it goes right along with our basically our whole story, because that's how everything happened for us, completely ass backwards. and in, I mean, in strange ways.
And they just add in that extra hurdle to jump like that.
Right. Yeah. But I mean, I felt like we were in unbelievable company. I mean, Big Sugar is still one of my favorite bands. And I mean, that was an incredible experience. And then the BCCMA awarded that album, the Girls Will Be Girls album. It blew our minds. But I want to say that there was never a moment where it wasn't, where we weren't so grateful.
Mm-hmm.
right until we disbanded. It was like every nod, every award, it was always just thank you. Thank you for seeing us. Thank you for, for standing behind a female country trio when people just weren't doing
Mm-hmm. Did CMT embrace you as well?
that. Yeah.
It took might have taken a little bit of time to get that ball
Well,
rolling,
they
possibly.
banned our second video.
Really?
Yeah, which made people want to see it anymore. So even
Well,
like
that's
all more. It was called Borderline Angel, and it was about a mother who who supported her young daughter by being a woman of the streets because, well, you'd have to,
yeah.
go watch the video.
Oh, I
But it
will.
was very subtle and it was very heartfelt. And in the end, she leaves it all behind and takes care of her daughter. But I remember getting that call. Jerry's like, well, now we've done it. We're banned from CMT within this second video. But it did make people really want to see it though. So it didn't do us any harm.
There is that added bonus
Yeah.
of
And
what people can't have, they want even more.
yeah, right. CMT, uh, they had directors that they really wanted to be used, and we had the directors that we loved from that weren't necessarily from the country scene, and so but we were paying for our videos,
Mm-hmm.
so it was kind of like, nope, we're using dude over here. I will say that they graciously made a Christmas special with us. That was really insane and really fun. And we look back at it now, and still, it's good Christmas laugh. I mean,
Yeah.
there was a lot of like little acting bits in it and stuff, which none of us are really actors, but it was really fun. We filmed it in Kananaskis.
Oh,
And
beautiful.
we did all the singing live. That was one thing that CMT was like, we want all the singing live. So here we were in Kananaskis in December. And we were, one of the songs, Oh Holy Night, we were recording at like 2:00 in the morning in sleet and thinking, whose idea was it to sing this whole, I mean, there is a time for, just singing over you, but we did everything live. So,
Yeah.
and we actually, looking back at it now, I don't think we would have opted to do it any other way because we did everything live.
What was one of your most memorable performances that you had?
One of my personal favorites, we sang on a barge in the Elora Gorge, where
Where's
they had to
that
take
at?
us out to our stage on a little boat.
Oh, wow.
And it was one of the most beautiful scenic situations. Another one was we sang the national anthem for the WWF grudge match, the Heart grudge match. And the Undertaker was coming onto the stage as we were leaving, and they literally told us, like, okay, so these guys are very serious about their characters. So when you're done, we need you to hustle it like out and off. And
Wow.
we were just walking down the ramp, and the Undertaker came down and just about swept all three of us, in one fell swoop. But that was memorable. We also did shows, military shows in Eritrea, in Israel and Egypt, Bosnia, and what's the northernmost point? Alert. Alert. Yeah,
Oh,
so if you were to go out and get groceries, it would be Russia. But
yeah.
they took us up there in Herks. And I have to say that there's just, especially in Bosnia, and our Eritrean trip, those trips are very meaningful to the people who are on the base. And the Canadians are peacekeeping troops, but they were there for almost 6 months. And at the end of that 6 months, they the most important thing, yeah, the shows were appreciated, but we really literally sat around and talked to them and just, visited with them and, gave them some different
Yeah.
faces to see,
And you get to learn so much from them too about what
Oh
their
my God.
experiences are like.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was, those are some of the moments that really made a mark on
Mhm.
my life. Like when I came back from that tour, my list of priorities had changed. It was one of
Yeah.
those. It was one of those trips where it's just like, okay, we need to think through what we consider issues.
Mhm.
Um, and we decided also one year, this is a very memorable one, to play Christmas Day in Wendover, Nevada at a casino. So we were in between sets. We were running home and basing the turkey in the band house, which was not a cute band house. I mean, there was nothing sexy about that band house. Yeah, but that was I feel like that kind of sums us up. Like we were so focused and so driven, and we often were referred to as the hardest working band in Canada because we would take gigs like that and say, okay, yes, we want to keep our band. We had our band on a retainer, which again, back in the day, that wasn't necessarily done, but we loved them and we wanted to make sure that we kept them. And so as a female touring artist, we had to be extra.
Smart. Yeah. Now, tell me about the reunion you had at the Winspear Center here in Edmonton.
Oh, yes. That should have been on my list. That was amazing.
Yeah. And
First of all,
what year was that?
the venue, good question.
I can always look that up on Wikipedia. It's fine.
Yes, you're going to have to do that because I know I was living in Stratford, Ontario at the time.
Mhm.
Yeah, not sure. But first of all, the venue itself is just like one of my favorite places to play. It's just beautiful.
Mm.
And then, we hadn't sung together for literally years. So it was really emotional. It was one of those emotional things where we were thinking to ourselves, why did we ever stop this? And then, life goes on.
Exactly. But it's good that you had that opportunity to be with them together and
Yes, amazing. I also want to mention one more event that is one of my favorites. So in the beginning, before we were making money with Farmer's Daughter, we had an alter ego band called Sisters from Another Mother, and we did all Motown stuff, which not all Motown, but like the Beehives and a lot of Motown. Ange was doing
nice.
that in a lounge gig at the time, but we made an act. So the Walk for AIDS hired them. And we're like, you guys, we have a song out on country radio right now. Like we can't go and play as someone else at this point. And they're like, well, what if we hire you to open for you?
Oh,
So we
cool.
came out and did our whole Motown repertoire. And then it was in the West End of Vancouver after the march. And we ran to a friend's house and we tore the Beehives out and we read it and we came back and we headlined as Farmer's Daughter with the hit that we had on the radio at the time.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah.
um, now, as the years went on, eventually you're living in the US now. Which city are you in?
Atlanta.
Atlanta. Awesome. And yeah, for a time you had a country group together in Nashville called Samson and Delilah. Is that correct?
Okay, that group was not in Nashville. When I was in Nashville, I was working for a record company on the other side of things,
Okay.
as far as being a creative director. So worked with a lot of the branding, a lot of the video and photo shoots and that kind of thing.
Hmm.
Samson and Delilah is a band. How do you know about Samson and Delilah?
I've been doing research.
Oh my
That's
gosh.
why I had to say, is that correct? Because what if the research was wrong? So thank you for
So
correcting
that
me.
band was one of my favorite vocal experiences outside of Farmer's Daughter. Farmer's Daughter will always be my love, my heart.
Mhm.
But Samson and Delilah, for me, obviously, you see a theme. It's three-part harmony. It is everything. And it's so funny because I've never wanted to be like the lead. Even to this day, like we'll be listening to something in the car and I wait and I come in on the chorus with the harmony. It's just what my body and my brain does.
Yes.
I love it. I love the challenge of where those notes go. And now my almost 4-year-old daughter is like, Mom, I want to sing the harmony. And she's just going for it. Like her ear is unbelievable. Samson and Delilah. Samson is my ex-husband. Mm-hmm. And the other girl in the band, Laura Rose, is just one of the most phenomenal singers and one of the most incredible, intuitive. Like there were songs that we had never sung together when we just started rehearsing them. We would just go to the same places at the same time. It was one of the easiest things I've ever done. And it's funny because we created the band after my husband and I split up. So that's weird.
Was it awkward?
No. I mean, when I hear people talking about their exes with disdain, I think, well, I'm glad that's not my situation. I love him. He is a great human, and I was together with him for 13 years. And he is some of my favorite memories, and drummed in our band in Farmer's Daughter for years. We put a lot of time in together, and I'd be a nut bar now to say anything but thank you for all the fun times. He's a good guy, incredible musician. But we didn't live well together. Towards the end, it was more about what we wanted long term. And I think as you grow and start adulting, which a lot of times is no fun at all, is when you start figuring out, well, that worked for us when we were on the road 270 days of the year, but now we're really finding out, on the day-to-day what works for us. And so we split. And we went through a legal separation. We kind of forgot to get divorced until many years later we said over a beer, are we actually divorced? And I had to go look it up, and we weren't. So we got divorced, but like years later. We remained friends. Took a holiday together, started a band.
There it is.
We were good.
And now that you're in Atlanta, do you ever come back to Canada to visit?
Yes. Before the madness of the COVID. Yes. My parents are in Red Deer.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, they were in Nashville for years, and just over the last 2 years, they moved back to Calgary, and then they ended up moving out to Red Deer. We've got a lot of family out there.
Nice.
So I made a point of, I don't ever want to leave it more than 3 months between, seeing my parents, and especially with Avalon, like my mom is going nuts right now. Thank goodness for video chat, or she'd be sneaking across the border. But and Stratford, Ontario is probably, I lived there for almost 13 years, and I have, family there, not blood, friends, the family you choose.
Yes.
I fell in love with the city. I fell in love with the lifestyle. I fell in love with so many of the people there. That's actually where my first husband is from. I'd never really known anything about Stratford, and that's where he hails from. Oh. So, that town and the people in it that's like home to me, even now. Yeah.
Now, one of the most exciting things that's going on right now is how I found you on your website, and what your focus is telling the world your story right now. And that's what I really want to get into. Tell me all about becoming a mother in your early 50s. This is very inspirational to me, as I'm 42, and time seems to be ticking a bit, and I don't have children yet.
Yeah.
So I want to hear more about your story.
Okay, well, I just, I go back to that time where the label person said your kind gets pregnant.
Mhm.
And my dad, our manager, was just like, Sarah in the Bible was 88. You all have lots of time. And that was funny when we were all in our early 30s. As time went by, it's like, it wasn't so funny. I'm like, that was a funny joke back then, wasn't it, Dad? um, I completely derailed myself. What did you just ask me?
Well, basically, what I want to know about your story about becoming a mother at 51, because this is
Yeah.
something that you have your website promoting right now, and it's out there and to inspire and help other women. So tell me about your story when you became a mother at that
Right.
age.
Okay. So honestly, I did not see this coming.
Yeah.
I've never been, like Angela in our band, she was one of those women who said right from the very beginning, I was made to be a mother. I will be a mother in this life. I focused on my career and never really pictured myself not being a mother, but I couldn't picture myself with a family either. So I just kind of was hanging out in the land of let's just take one day at a time as it comes. And all of a sudden, boom, I was a certain age. And then I think at that point, I just accepted the fact that there is more than one right way to get through life. And we don't have to have a baby just because we can. And maybe this is just my path. I dedicated my life to my career. And so I said, I'm going to be a fabulous aunt with my martini glass and my 3-pound Yorkie living on the 36th floor of a high rise in Toronto.
Yeah.
And that's going to be my life. And I'm okay with that. So there were moments leading up to that where I did I played the should game and it's like, ugh, ugh. And then I let it go and was really living my life to the fullest, with that knowledge and that acceptance of what my life was going to look like.
Hmm.
And then this person, this blast from my past, this Christopher Kevin Willis. So we spoke about him in the beginning when we first started talking about the gospel band. So I met him 33 years ago,
Oh,
34 years
wow.
ago, something like that. Met and fell in love in the gospel band pre-Farmer's Daughter, and we both went our separate ways. And we never fell out of touch. He's always been my person. He's the guy that I would call with the good news and the bad news and the complaints and the celebrations, and vice versa. And I would go on trips with him overseas when he had incredible fame, has incredible fame with with his singing career, did a lot of stuff with David Guetta and in the early days. And so a lot of fabulous traveling. And so we have always remained. This is Avalon.
Avalon, it's so
Avalon,
nice to meet
yeah.
you.
Hi, Naomi.
Hi. Thanks for coming to say hi, Avalon.
So staying so connected and having this relationship with this human. At one point on one of our last visits, we were saying goodbye at the airport, and it was just, it was an award-winning goodbye. It was just like, and asking ourselves, why are we doing this? Why do we love to be together and hate to be apart? What are we doing?
Mm-hmm.
So we had this conversation about how we saw our future going, and then I took a trip with him to a wedding in Spain, and he said to me, he said, I want a family of my own. I'm tired of being, the uncle at the kids' table. Well, I'm sure he was never put at the kids' table, but you get the idea.
Oh, yeah.
I see my life going in a certain direction. I have a legacy. I have things I want to pass down. I want someone to pass it down to. I want to experience being a father, and I don't want to do it without you.
Oh, wow.
And at that point, I had just been offered a job in Toronto, and I had concerns about the two of us being together at that point. So I took the job. And 1 year later, we had a phone call, and he said, look, what do you want? I'll tell you what I want. I want you to come to Atlanta. I want us to be a family. I want us to have a baby. And at that point too, I was just thinking, okay, well, that ship has definitely passed. So I knew nothing. I wasn't researching any of this stuff. So in my mind, that day has come and gone for me. Like, and so he started presenting me with, different medical, possibilities. And so he said, what do you want? And I gave it some thought, and I said, you know what? I want nothing more than to be a family with you. And literally within a month, I sold everything in Toronto. I left my job. I moved down to Atlanta. We worked on immigration and all that stuff after the fact, after I got here. So we didn't worry about the how at all. We concentrated on what and why and what we wanted. And at this point in our lives, that we just said, we're just going to go for it. So I moved down, and we got married, and we started the fertility journey directly after that. Had no idea what was possible.
Yeah.
Had no idea that I could carry a baby at that point. Mm-hmm. And so we had to make a lot of decisions at that point about what we wanted to do as far as, egg donation, IVF. And we knew that we didn't have a lot of time to experiment, because a lot of people are like, well, let's find out if you have any eggs and let's go that direction first. Mm-hmm. And we opted not even to go down that road.
She's so sweet.
Yes, she is. And we thought to ourselves, if there were any rogue eggs floating around in there, they may cause problems, really. And also the time factor. We understood what we were up against, and we wanted the best possible outcome. Mm-hmm. So initially, we started looking at egg donors that were within the fertility center. Mm-hmm. And it's like a catalog. I mean, you can put in, 5'8", a Germanic, descent, want them to have a musical background, and the videos pop up.
Wow.
Here, Svetlana, and it was crazy, but something inside me was just like, nope, definitely not, hell no. And Christopher's like, you need to loosen the grip a little bit, honey, because and I kept coming back to my niece, Savannah, who I was very, very, very close with. And Chris had reservations because he wondered, like, is this going to be weird?
Right.
Is this going to be weird at Christmas? Is this going to change the dynamic with your family? Is Savannah going to decide one day that, whatever happens when things go sideways, right?
Right.
So finally, he came around to saying, okay, let's have this conversation. We called my brother and sister-in-law first before I even contacted Savannah, because my brother and I are very close, and also my sister-in-law, who I've known since we were kids. So we called them first and said, look, this is what we're thinking. Are you okay with that? And they were overjoyed. And that's when we reached out to my niece. And before I even finished my sentence, she said, absolutely, whatever you want, Auntie, I would do anything for you. And that started our fertility journey, where she came down to Atlanta. Savannah came down to Atlanta and lived with us for about 3 months, leading up to the egg retrieval and the IVF process, which, Chris and I are both very A-type personalities. It's like, we're going to go. We've found the number one, the guy who is heading up the egg donation part of the, it was in New York City, the Langone Center for Fertility, Dr. Licciardi, who's just a genius. We thought to ourselves, we're going to walk in there, we're going to pay our money, I'm going to take my shots, and bingo, bango, baby. And so 4 years later, and we had 6 transfers, a miscarriage, the rest were failed transfers, and then this one.
Wow.
So that's why I think my dedication to what I'm starting up now, I feel so passionate about, is because I think if it happened on the first try, this part of the conversation wouldn't exist. There's so many layers to that experience. So many layers based around shame, around worthiness, around persistence. So much of the success of this, I believe, for me in my situation, was mindset. And then, the absolute best medical and integrative doctors as well. But what I found after we had Avalon, where women were coming up to me and asking in very hushed tones, like, so what did you do? You want to go put your Halloween costume on? Can you reach it? Maybe Daryl would help you.
Daryl's busy.
Oh, Daryl's busy. One moment. We're going to get Halloween costume and be right back.
Sure.
Okay. Again, the women who were asking me questions were asking me questions like, and it was always in the same way. It was like, what
Did they almost feel embarrassed to ask the question?
Yes, there's this subject of infertility, especially with women, is shrouded in shame. There is this feeling like there's something wrong with me because I can't do the most basic thing in the world, and that's have a baby. I mean, this is the most basic thing, right? Well, and young or older, I mean, obviously it doesn't get easier when you get older, but it is a very interesting subject. And so that was what kind of made me start thinking, like I found that I was so exhilarated and excited to share with them all the possibilities. It's like, sometimes I wonder if they thought, well, I just asked one question, lady, because it just comes tumbling out. It's like, try this, do this, see this, experience this, maybe open up to this kind of treatment. I mean, I want to share what we did, because there was so much emotion. There's so much pain. There's so much excitement. There's just so much. So when the questions started coming to me, when I was answering them, I found that I was it became a passion. And so this is what this whole thing is about with the Jake Take. And I now have a private Facebook group for people who are going down this path. And I've called it the Jake Take Sisterhood, because I've invited people who have done the thing and had the babies to show up for these women. And, there is a myth about, women showing up for women that, that I am hoping to completely dispel, even if it's just in my corner of the world. Although I find that it's becoming stronger. But just that, that I got you. I'm here for you. I support you. I want to share everything that worked for me.
Yeah.
Because when something didn't work, we would turn around and say, okay, let's here we go again. Let's do all of this and then add this to the protocol. Like whether it was an energy worker, a healer, whatever people suggested we do, we did. We took very seriously, and then the mindset, part of it came in, and I believe that all together is what was, brought success for us. So yeah, that is my, it's a passion of mine, and I love our story, and I want people to know that if I did it, so can someone else. I was 51.
It's an incredible journey, and I am so overjoyed that you're doing something to not only help lift up women and inspire them, but take that shame feeling away about how they feel about the situation, and the encouragement you're giving them. I think it's fantastic. So I'm definitely going to make sure that everybody out there knows about the Jake Take. We're going to put those links up on our social media.
Yeah. And, I'm finding that initially it's my website was where I lived, but then I, over on Instagram and the private page, I'm actually going live with my niece on Monday. I think we're doing it on Monday. Anyway, yeah, it's, just letting people know that I've been where you are. I feel the pain, but the one thing that you can't do is give up if this is something. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Let's see your costume.
This is Violet from The Incredibles.
That's so cool.
Oh,
You're such a superhero.
oh, listen. Yeah, that was.
Looks good.
Yeah, and it's worth it.
Yeah.
She is my heart for sure.
Yeah. Oh, she's so charismatic. She- what a doll.
Yes, she is.
She's got to go fight crime. Okay.
Oh, trust and believe.
But yeah, I'm so inspired by this story, and I'm really happy that you're sharing it on our show today. I do just have a couple more questions to ask you
sure.
before we end our time together.
So, Avalon, I'm going to need you just to be quiet for a little bit longer, okay?
Yeah, I'll be sure we'll wrap it up pretty quick for you.
Time.
Are you still in touch with Angela and Shauna Ray? Angela's going to be talking to me on Monday.
What's that?
Angela's talking to me on Monday.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Excellent. Yes, absolutely. I'm there. Those girls are still my lifeline. I just had a super long one. And again, thank goodness for video chat. Ange she knows more about my family history sometimes, and I will call her and say, remember my so-and-so and so-and-so, who was the husband of, and she's like, bah, bah, bah. We called her Trivia Tracy too. Yeah, those girls are a part of me. We will always be family, like forever. Yeah. I miss them. I miss being in the same, we used to finish each other's sentences, like really, and we fought like sisters too. It certainly wasn't all roses and butterflies, that's for sure.
Especially when you have to share a bus.
Yeah, but and the first year of our touring, we shared a hotel room, the three of us.
Wow.
Yeah.
That can be rough.
So yeah, it bonded us for sure.
Do you think there's a possibility in the future that you will perform together again? Loaded question.
I would love nothing more. I really, it is, it's a feeling that I can't explain. It's a part of my life that holds probably, at least 50 to 60% of my most amazing memories.
Mm-hmm.
And, there is something about experiencing that kind of win with other people. It was our creation, it was our focus, it was something that we literally brought into existence and were able to experience together. When they announce your name after the nominees, and the winner is, and it's actually you, it's just, there is a euphoria, and to share that with these other people, it binds you together in a very special way, for sure. I miss them. I was going to say, I'm so nostalgic now, but
that's what I'm here for.
tie that in. Yeah. I think I'm going to have to hang up and call them both in on a conference call.
What goals lie ahead for you?
One of my hugest goals is to stay healthy and active. I just started a workout at an infrared sauna. I don't know if you've heard of that. It's called Hotworks, and it's like they're little private 7x7 infrared saunas that have virtual like yoga and Pilates, and and they have cycling classes. So you're getting the benefit of the infrared sauna and also the workout. So staying healthy so that I can be around to be here for this little girl and show her the world,
Yeah.
yeah, I am excited about. There are a couple things in the works right now. I am talking to a company about creating a line of kids hair products for curly hair.
Wonderful.
Yeah, my goals have always been to dream about doing things that seem kind of impossible. Right now, that's just about everything.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so yeah, but staying healthy and it's really interesting when you have a little following you around, watching what you do and say. It really makes you stop and think. And so, it's funny that you should ask about goals today. I'm a part of a group called the U Squared. It's a book by Price Pritchard about quantum leaps and incorporating mindset and strategy. So today that was one of the questions. It's like, what would you do if you couldn't fail? So that's top of mind right now.
What a great wording of that question.
Yeah,
If you
what
couldn't
what
fail.
would you do if you couldn't fail? And I keep coming back to the idea of, I love working with women. So I think what I'm doing in the coaching field is really up my alley.
Mm.
But I see retreats. I love opulence. I love getaways. I would love to see a group of women who are on this journey and who are tired and who feel like they've tried everything. I'd like to whisk them away to Belize or, somewhere exotic and beautiful, and introduce them to, maybe some types of yoga or acupuncture or mindset or crystals or beauty, and help this experience to be one of beauty and love, when quite oftentimes, just by the very nature of it, it's one of pressure and one of anxiety and one of disappointment and one of pain. That's my big dream right there.
What you're doing is very important, and
Thank
I'm
you.
really grateful for you. I'm really grateful for what you're doing and your message that you're helping women with. And it's been extremely inspiring to get to know you today. Thank you so much for spending that time with me.
Naomi, it was such an honor to be asked. Thank you.